Do you wanna warm up first? What do you do normally?
Voice. I do the voice stuff usually.
Yeah, you normally do like a little. No, I mean I'm trying to put you in the tennis mode. You
No,
know?
totally
we
good.
We got and hit it. Can I tell you that's probably my favorite thing about tennis is that like you warm each other up.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's really weird.
It is super strange.
There's no other sport I can think of where the opposing athletes help each other get into the
like,
zone.
Hey, can I give you a good rhythm so you can beat me after? No.
Yeah, I've just never. You won't see boxers doing like the bags
The
with each other.
sparring.
Yeah, like just like doing a little punching and just like before you go knock each other out. This is What Now with Trevor Noah. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of What Now, the podcast where we have interesting conversations with the interesting people who make us think or feel. Today is, this is always one of my favorite things to do, is sit down with somebody I consider a friend, somebody who I've got fond memories with, funny stories, whatever it may be, and really just chat about how they see the world, what they're doing in it. And that person today is the one and only Roger Federer. You probably know him if you've lived on Earth, but if you don't, he is widely regarded as the greatest tennis player that has ever done it. He also gives that accolade to many of his peers who are also some of the greatest to ever do it. But today we're talking about everything in between. A documentary entitled Federer, 12 Final Days, which is exactly what it sounds like. The 12 final days of Roger Federer's professional playing career. And yeah, man, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, friend.
For sure. Good to see you, Trevor. Absolutely the same. I'm happy to see you again. You know, my tennis partner, man, from Cape Town. We did it together.
I mean, your tennis rival.
But we were in it together.
Yeah, we were in it together.
Yeah,
but you still beat me.
That's amazing that you actually did that. That was crazy. 52,000 people. I mean, you just started to play tennis barely, and here you are walking out in Cape Town to that stadium. That was wild.
Yeah, my first and last public tennis match was against Roger Federer.
Retired
with
on
Rafa
top.
Nadal as my, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, Rafa was your partner.
Quit the game on top. Yeah. Do I now have to say doctor? How does this work?
As it's up to you. But if you have any issues ever or any problems, you come to see me. I mean, doctor of many things. But the doctor thing comes from... you're probably referring to my commencement speech.
Yeah, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That was fun in Dartmouth, and you get an honorary doctorate. Yeah. So here I am sitting as a doctor. You know, I'm a former tennis player. That's what I am.
I can't think of many people who would be a better doctor than you. You're one of the most precise human beings I know. You're one of the most, like, you have everything that I think a good doctor would have, right? And I mean like a doctor, like medical doctor. You have great bedside manner. Everyone that meets you likes you, and they probably give you more information than they should. They start just sharing their secrets with you. Do you know what I mean? You've got the precision, you've got like the memory, the touch, the everything. It also seemed like emotional for you, you know, and I know a little bit of your story because you were, you know, thrust into the, you know, tennis profession like so early on. High school wasn't a thing for you.
No.
College wasn't a thing for you. Was it like a little emotional experiencing a part of life that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise?
And very strange because, like you said, the academic world and that part of life is so far away from it, right? I knew that in Switzerland, it's super important. Academics come first, and everything else is a hobby. You know, tennis, especially sports in general, anyways. So for you to pursue tennis or a sport in our country is like, you're obviously not going to be good at it. So make sure your grades are good, you know, because this is obviously not going to work out.
Oh, wow.
And so for us to dive into that and believing and dreaming of, you know, the big time is not something that is very common. Maybe now more so since, you know, I made it and we have more athletes making it, you know, and it's a thing. And you can see how much emotions actually a athlete can bring. It can be more seen as a career, you know, but... Then I remember I tried hard, you know, when I stopped school at 16 and chased, my tennis dream. I remember I did French, English, and German online classes for those because I said, I got to do something after 16. I can't just stop it all. Then after, you know, a couple of weeks, I asked my dad and my mom, like, it's so hard. I don't have the discipline to sit down and do English and all that stuff and German and French. They said, okay, we drop French. I'll just do German and English. I'm better at that than the French part. They're like, okay, fine. So then, like 2 weeks later, I'm like, I can't do it. Just give me a chance just to do only tennis. And if tennis really doesn't work out, I'll go straight back to school. But please let me go.
Man, I like how you whittling down the languages. I can't do French. No. I can't do language. I just want to hit the ball.
And then here I am, yesterday at Dartmouth. I mean, in my robe, giving commencement speaking, to all those graduates. They're going to be so bright. They're going to be incredible people, and I feel very humbled, and it was a great moment,
And you brought the family,
and then all the kids came, and everybody came. So it really felt like a deep dive into American college, which I had, I know very little about. Obviously, I mean, in recent years, I've got to know more and more about it. So when they asked me, I started preparing because I don't give many speeches like that. So
you seem natural, though. Like,
thank you.
I know this about you personally. You're not the biggest fan of being on the mic. You're not the biggest fan of like being. Yeah. But I've met few people who are more natural at it. Like you, it's not just the glamour. It's like you have this vibe. Like you could be a Swiss James Bond.
Yeah, what is that? Swiss James Bond. I see him. I see him showing up. Here I am, saving everything.
Very responsible.
Yes, very responsible. He'll be on time.
Yeah,
that's for
very
sure.
on time. Very responsible. Wouldn't blow anything up.
No,
he would just fix things.
Absolutely,
he'd make them better.
No, I mean, I like being, on the mic, but then also I very much like, again, being gone from it all, so, and I think for me, most important was always try to keep sort of the authenticity, just being organic, myself, not change too much, adapt fine, to stardom and all that stuff, that was weird in the very beginning of my life, but I'm happy I got out on the other side after this whole like 25 years of being in the limelight, to still feel like I'm actually still a good normal guy, just I don't take myself too serious. I like to make jokes all the time, as you know, and so then having a conversation like with you like today, I knew it was going to be fun. So
thank you. Why do you think that is, by the way? Like my dad's Swiss, so I know that Swiss people aren't like the funniest. Like, I mean, we just have to be honest. Like, what do you think it is that gave you that little spark? Like when we were doing the Swiss tourism ad, we spent most of the day laughing.
Yeah, we did.
When we were playing the tennis, we spent most of the day laughing. Yeah. When you were launching the Oliver Peoples collaboration, your sunglasses, we spent most of that evening laughing. Where do you think you get that from?
I mean, it has to be from traveling and getting on the road and the people I've been surrounded by. I mean, as you know, when you wait around along and you're around good, fun people that, life's serious enough most of the time. Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of time to just, talk smack all the time. So that's why I think it has to come from the road. I think then when I speak French, whereas my French is never as good as my English, I still feel like I'm a teenager, right? So when I speak French,
that's funny.
I feel like I'm super young still and super silly because the vocabulary is way more limited.
Really funny, Roger.
And English to me is like the language where I'm maybe the happiest and the most open. Okay. And maybe Swiss German is maybe where I'm the most... how do you say, the most me per se, where I can get into the details because that's the language I grew up with.
The most precise. Of course, Swiss is the most precise.
There you go. It has to be that way. So that's why I think it also has a little bit to do with all of that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. For this conversation, I was trying to think of like what would be something that the listeners would really love, What would they get from Roger that they may not be able to get in another conversation? And because on the podcast, What Now? What I'm always fascinated by is not just what happened, but what that thing that happened will change for the future, So sometimes if it's news or politics, it's like that happened. Right. Okay, what now? But with people, I also find it interesting because we always meet people at a moment in time, and very seldom do we get insight into where they're going to go, what they're going to do, or how they're going to do it. And then you came out with this documentary film, the 12 Final Days. And man, I know you fairly decently, and I've been lucky enough to know you for a few years, but there were parts of it that were really intimate and really, revealing. Yeah, I would say, and maybe that's the first question I have for you is like, were you worried at any point? Like, why would you make a documentary that is following you for the last 12 days of one of the most illustrious careers that anyone has ever seen across any sports? Was there a part of you that worried that maybe you'd be losing the intimacy of that moment?
And that's why I think the best part of it all was it was not supposed to be a movie. It was just supposed to be for the vault, to put it away for my children,
No way,
for my team, for my friends one day, just so we could look back and say, like, we actually grabbed some content. Because the thing is, I've been super open in the media. I mean, always happy to take pictures and talk to everyone. But then private is private. Like nobody comes to my house. We don't do home stories. It's just sort of off limits. And I tried to keep my kids out of the limelight as much as I could. Of course, they've come seen some of the matches then down the road, and of course, people then see them sometimes. But for the most part, I've really tried to keep that more of a private thing. So when then the career was coming to an end, the question was, well, where was it going to be? Where do I retire? Because I knew sort of at some point in the summer that my knee was not improving anymore, and you could see the trajectory going, and then some people around me really thought that I should maybe have at least some footage taken from the end, because I really never wanted a camera team in my life, because I said, like, I couldn't think of anything worse. Here I am trying to prepare for Wimbledon or French Open, US Open, you name it.
You've got all these people around.
And then they're here, and then you're tying your shoes, and they're looking over your shoulder, so you tie them extra nice, and then you go in front of the mirror, you put on the headband, and you make sure it looks epic, even though it makes no difference. You just want to be focused. So I think I always felt like that's not the thing I really need in my life, and I don't want that. Okay, so then we decide that it's going to be London, 02, doubled with Rafa. I had called Rafa at this point. And I thought, okay, if I can just have a camera team around, knowing that it's going to go into the vault, I'm going to be relaxed, because then I can just leave it there forever. Or if ever there is a life doc, about my life 30 years from now, I actually have some extra footage while I still was active. I mean, there is obviously tons of footage out there, and maybe some I never remember. And I allowed some behind the scenes. Sometimes I'd like exhibition matches, like in South America tour I had, because I just thought, okay, exhibitions, you're relaxed. It's much more on the fly, everything. There is no rules, whereas you're playing for so many points and so much history. At those other events, I don't need the extra distraction. Okay, so then team shows up, was Joe Sabia from 73 Questions.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, okay, I need someone I kind of know. It cannot be just somebody out of nowhere that shows up and then is in my life.
Especially for something so intimate.
Yeah, it was super intimate, because I said, okay, if I bring somebody in, I mean, the guy has to come home. And I'm like, I don't want anybody at home, but he has to.
Yeah.
So we did that, and days go by. As I prepare in Switzerland, I release, the news to the world that I'm retiring. I read, sort of my audio form letter to the world, because I didn't know how I was going to announce it, if it was going to be video, but I knew I was always going to regret a video, because I was going to look at it later and go like, oh my God, that was such a bad video. But, you have to do something. And then a little tweet is maybe not good enough, because
that's not good enough for the career.
That's not good enough as well. So I read this letter. So the crew is there as well, so they captured that. And then as I get ready and then travel to London and prepare with the media and all that stuff. So literally the crew is really more just a fly on the wall, over the shoulder, very raw footage. And then as the days go by, Joe says, I'm so sorry, this footage is so sick. It's crazy. I mean, it'd be such a pity if you don't share this with your fans and your people. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm not here for that. I'm trying to cope with my emotions.
You're essentially making a home video,
right? So,
capturing a final moment.
So it was nuts. And then, of course, everything's over. Joe reaches out to me, to the director, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks later, I don't remember. He goes, look, I just put something together for you to see. 60 minutes, have a look, or 50 minutes, I don't remember.
Right.
And he was on Zoom. I was watching it at the hotel in Zurich, and cried a couple of times, because again, you go through the emotions of watching it. And I was thinking with Mirka and Tony, we were watching it and thinking, is this something that really needs to go out to the world? And maybe it's just like a snapshot of, like you said, that very, very end of it all, It's literally like rehab also for me, going through it all again.
Oh, in what way?
I don't know, because it was so emotional at the end. So I think for me to talk about it again and emotionally go through it all,
Man.
it's like therapy. It
That's
feels
special.
good, but I'm, as you know, in the movie, I'm so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So I just hope that the people think, thank you for letting me see it. So cool, you actually didn't keep it. And so when I hear that people like it, I'm just relieved, because it was so hard, the end.
I know for a fact that people are going to love it, because it's not just the fact that they're watching a documentary about Roger Federer. It's the fact that you are bringing them into a space that we very seldom get to see, which is the human side of being an athlete.
Totally.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
When we watch the documentary and when we think about teammates, relationships, partnerships, I think arguably the greatest doubles partnership of all time is you and Mirka. I watched the two of you. I've seen you at everything from the Met Gala to
we get to see each
man,
other
to just
there.
like a little vacation together, to chilling in Switzerland, to whatever it is. The two of you have the most beautiful synchronicity between you as human beings.
Thank you.
I've always wondered what that is. Like, what do you think it is about Mirka that enables you to go off and become the greatest of all time? What do you think it is about her, and what do you think you in turn give her as well? Because the two of you really have a wonderful synergy as human beings.
I mean, I think you have to go back to the early days, where when we got together pretty much at the Sydney Olympics in 2000. I was young at the time. Mirka was, in the middle of her career. Started having some heel Achilles issues, and was struggling after the surgery to come back. I remember she was on crutches walking all the way through Paris at the time. Super tough moments, and she was on crutches for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, over a month, I think. At the time, I was like, my God, I mean, how long are you having these crutches for? I thought, like, it's just a surgery and we get back up on the horse, and you keep going. And then she was doing rehab, always pain. And then I told her, but why don't you just... retire. Like, this is not the idea of playing tennis with pain all the time. And then we can be on tour together. And I was, on the ascend of starting to win Wimbledon, top 10, world number 1. And she's like, yeah, you're right. Let me, I'm done. It's good. And then,
wow.
And then here we are, me, I don't know if I should retire. I'm 36, 37, 38. It's so hard to retire. And I'm thinking of her. She just went okay, I'm done. It's no problem. So what's the big deal? I'm like, well, and here I am. It's the biggest deal in the world to retire. I make it so emotional, and I love the game so much, which she does too. But I think she loved the tour through my career and the travels and the logistics behind, and being, my rock really through thick and thin. And she's been incredible, throughout. And then first half, thankfully, we had it with no children. And thankfully, we had it with children, the second half, you know. And that's obviously, that was a whirlwind of a life that we had. And I missed that, to be honest, creating that home away from home experience, in a room like this, creating a corner where the kids would be playing. And then I would jump in and out and read a book and go build Lego together and whatever we did, create little corners like this. It was great. So Mirka's been phenomenal, and I think that's why also it was so hard for her at the end, when she could see the suffering that I was going through with my knee. And she's like, this is not the Roger that I know, who can crush everybody and beat everybody, and we just have a good time. If he loses, no problem, but if he loses, at least he's feeling okay. But she could see what I was going through on a daily basis. So I think we were all super relieved at the end. And in the movie as well, she speaks to camera, which she hasn't done in 18 years. People don't even know her voice, because she's like, I'm done with the media, because once she was taking care of the press. And I just thought that was not a great situation to have your wife or girlfriend at the time take care of the press, and all you say is 99% of the times, oh, I'm so sorry, Roger doesn't have time to do media. So she got a bad rap for that. So then we said, well, why not just stop doing that? We give it to somebody else, and she won't do any more interviews. Who knew that she was not going to do interviews for 18 years? And she did one, just quick one now for the for the movie.
End,
at the end, we just wanted to capture just to see how she felt. And actually, the beautiful thing was, I think when she was speaking to camera, I was actually in the bedroom of the girls. I believe the boys were there too, maybe. And I told them that I was retiring because I didn't tell them until I read the audio form at home,
Oh,
because I didn't want them to tell their kids,
their friends,
their
and then
friends,
all of a sudden
and then it
goes
leaks.
out. Yeah.
And we were crying in the bedroom. She's crying in the front, talking about how much the career and how much I've meant to her. And I mean, she's been incredible. I mean, throughout, because it hasn't been easy for her by any stretch. And but so much fun, and we look back with great memories.
We're going to continue this conversation right after this short break. One of my favorite moments is where you're sitting in the change room, and I think it's you're going to be playing against Francis, right? It's like it's for the doubles match, and you're talking about your knee.
Yeah.
And you say, like half joking, you go, if I knew it was going to be what it is, and I'm paraphrasing, you go, if I knew it was going to be like this, I would have never gotten into it in the first place. Yeah. And, I obviously don't take it literally. I don't think you would have never done it. But I do think people can take for granted how much sacrifice goes into a career like yours. Physical sacrifice, mental sacrifice, the time sacrifice of life. When you look at your body now, your mind, your everything, do you ever take stock and think to yourself, man, I really gave a lot to tennis as a career?
Yeah, and especially when I see, like yesterday, you see the French Open finals, Alcaraz against Zverev, 5 sets, and they're chasing each other around the corner. I'm like, I did that too. I did that too many times. Yesterday when I was the commencement speaker, I was talking about that I played 1,526 matches. I had to look it up how many I did. And then you realize, my God, there was a lot of tennis, a lot of running. And I'm so relieved that I don't have to go through it anymore, because, I mean, as fun as it was, but especially towards the end, I remember, I mean, the warm-ups, the stretchings to warm up, to go warm up, then tennis, to take a break, to then warm up the body again, to then go play, a match. I mean, it was massive, monumental effort to do that. Now you can say, like, well, what's the big deal? It's just tennis. Yeah, it's just tennis, but it's your life, and you've been trying to perform at your best in front of people, and you know that better than anybody. And performing in front of people just adds that extra pressure. There's no, okay, cut, let's do that again. That didn't work out. Like, you're out there and you're vulnerable, and it's tough. So I honestly, I feel super relieved, and I see any athlete now, or any person who performs at the highest of level, especially with a live audience, I respect them, and I'm so happy I have that. But it almost feels like it was a different me now. I don't know. You probably still so in the thick of it, But
no, what? I actually agree with you.
Distance now.
Yeah, because it's funny, and we talked about this, like. You announced like your departure from tennis around the same time I was departing from the Daily Show. And I think I can relate to many of the things you're saying. There's a moment in your life that is defined by a certain action and an activity. You know what it's going to be like when you wake up. You know what it's going to be like when you go to bed.
Very simple, actually.
Your body starts to get used to it. Your mind starts to get used to it. And when you step out of it, like you said, there's the grief of what you've let go of, but then you start to experience like a little newness, a little free, a little, like for me, my version of the no tennis warm up is some days I don't read the news.
Yeah.
Now I can just do that. I just go.
Before you had to know what was going on.
I would be at parties. I'll never forget this. I was at like a dinner party, and in the middle of the dinner party, a notification came up on my phone. There was breaking news. And I literally had to, I stepped away from the table and I went to read, just because I was like, I don't want to not know what this is, because my job requires it. And now I'm just like, hey, phone off. Yeah, I'll see what happens. But I'm sure it's like that for you, right?
Similar to me now as well. And that where I feel it the most is where, if I'm with my children or with my friends, I don't really have to think about tomorrow's practice or tomorrow's match. Like where all of a sudden you're sitting there, I don't know, you're having a good time, but you're thinking, so when he goes back and down the line on me, and I'm on the forehand on the run, do I hit it back up the line or do I cross court? Hey, you're like, you end up visualizing.
Okay, wait. Don't rush away from that. This is fascinating to me. I've always wondered this about like the best athletes in the game. You have memories and visualizations that AI would want to replicate. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that. So you're going into a match. You know a match is coming up in the next few days.
Mm-hmm.
You're visualizing what the match will be and how your opponent plays, and you're basically playing the match in your head before the match.
Yes, I mean, yes, absolutely. And I think some do it by watching video. I didn't watch a lot of video of my opponent, even though towards the end I did, because there's a couple of things that worked for me is the memory of remembering how it feels to play an opponent, then what I would want to do. So how does that match up together? Then how has my opponent played that particular week compared to how have we matched up against each other, let's say the last 10 years, and then you have fast court, slow court. So all of that matters. How do I feel that week? The things I've been doing maybe prior to the match.
Yeah.
Have I been playing aggressive? Have I been playing more safe? Am I carrying an injury or not? How do I feel? And then, especially against the best players, the ones I played the most against, it's always it's a game of chess, like for pattern. Who gets the patterns they want, right? And that's then when you realize, well, okay, it's very clear what he wants. It's very clear what I want.
Yeah.
Now the question is like, is one of us going to back out of it, or are we just going to say like, okay, let's see what you got on the day. He might not have a best day. Maybe I don't have my best day. So obviously there's this clash at the beginning, and then you got to decide that we keep going, or do we like start deviating from it? And that's where, like a skier, who sees the ski slope.
Yes.
We see those same patterns I was saying to you before, like if he goes, I don't know, short angle cross court, do I have to go back cross court and let him try to thread the needle up the line, or do I take charge and say like, do I go up the line and break it up, but then does it look like an escape from me, or is that a specific play I use, and then all this also statistics stuff came in towards the end of my career, which can really make your how do you say your mind crazy.
How do you feel about that? Because this is something that I've heard from athletes across all disciplines. I remember sitting with like a few players from the Premier League and Serie A, and they were telling me how in football, in soccer, now it's all become data analytics. So back in the day, the coach would tell you, this is how you should move, this is what you should do, and have fun. And now a coach goes, no, when that player gets the ball, we all move like this. You come down, you move up, you do that. When that player gets the ball, you do this.
Correct.
Because 70% of the time, they're going to cross the ball over here.
That's right.
82% of the time, they're going to pass it across this. 23% of the time, if you press them, they're going to do...
Completely.
But it's
That's
all
what's
stats,
coming
all
as well.
And with tennis, I've heard that this is also increasing, where now they give players like a book, and they say, study this.
Yeah.
These are the percentage odds for what your opponent is going to be doing or not doing in these types of situations. But like, how do you get that in your head?
So that's the thing. I am very much the guy who, likes to go with my power. Okay. I believe that, I don't know, playing attack in tennis, breaking down my opponent's backhand is the play. So obviously you're not going to just hit into the backhand all the time and try to break it down. No, you have to open it up through the forehand. So then the backhand corner gets bigger. And then obviously you can hit it hard into the backhand corner, spinny into the backhand corner, slice it, short, long. You do all these things. And then when, let's say, the most important moments come around, that's when you then ask your opponent all the questions that you've been massaging that bad side, let's say, so many times that he has his doubts that he obviously doesn't want to hit all those different types of backhands, let's just say.
Yeah.
Now, and then, you think it through with your coaches, and you have a game plan. Then, of course, you can think about all the problems and all the strength your opponent has. But I feel like in my best years, I just focused almost on my own game, and the rest I'll wing it and I'll figure it out. Towards the end, then, like you said, these analytics came in, and then you would hear that, I don't know, on break point, he would hit 73% chance that he goes to your backhand. So now, what do? Do you say like, well, obviously I'm waiting here on the backhand side? Or do you say like, well, hold on a second. He knows that I know, so I know he knows. And then he actually burns you up through the forehand. So you just, so that's where I preferred sometimes not to know and just go with the feeling of how the last game went, where he was serving, was he making the last serves, was he missing them, was he going for it, what was he doing? And I just go with the intuition. So that part I enjoyed less, when it got so specific, like a Formula One car, everything
becomes predictable.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this on a philosophical level then. Hearing you talk about this makes me think of how you can apply this to many things in life.
Yeah.
in society, sometimes the downfall of data is that it looks backwards. It doesn't look forwards. So you go, this has happened, ergo it will happen, as opposed to realizing that if you do something new, you can change the data. In relationships, people will talk about this. They go like, sometimes when couples are fighting, you go like, oh, why don't you buy her flowers? Oh, she doesn't care. She'll just tell me this. It's like, well, you're using the data now to assume something about somebody's future action. And it's interesting that you talk about that, because everyone who's a fan of tennis and a fan of you has always gone, it feels like you're flowing. It feels like you're walking through. It feels like you have this idea, but I wonder now what that brain is doing now that there isn't tennis to think about. Because that brain, it's not like your brain just goes away. It's not like your brain just turns off. So what's Roger applying that brain to now? Or do you get to rest that and think of something else?
I have the feeling maybe, like you said, Trevor, it's maybe a little bit of a holding position, a little bit of a resting phase, because I have retired just 5 minutes ago.
Wait. Let's pause here.
Yeah.
This is your resting phase?
I mean, resting phase as in,
wait.
Maybe,
yo, Roger, I'm going to call you out. No one's going to call you out. No, this is your resting phase? Yo, okay, let's let's go. Launching a sunglasses brand that was sold out in minutes, all right? Continuing to blow up one of the fastest growing sports brands in the world, right? Which is On. Traveling around the world, still with as a Rolex ambassador, still being the face of tennis. Releasing a documentary, going around the world. This is your resting phase?
Well, I feel like this, I say it because this year in particular, I was very strong with my wife to say, you know what, let's plan all our vacations super early.
Okay.
So nobody can say oh, by the way, can you come to this one thing?
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
That makes sense.
I'm in Vietnam right now, or I will be in Vietnam at this time, or I'll be in Bangkok, I'll be, somewhere around the world. So I really protected my schedule. I feel at a very good level this year. I'm really happy we did that. I told you we just came back 6 weeks from Asia, from an amazing trip. We're in Thailand. Before that, we were in Japan last October, and we had a wonderful Christmas in the Maldives, so things I really, really looked forward to for many, many years while still on tours, that one day I can go visit places without the stress of having to practice or actually play another match there.
Man, it's so funny you say this.
And it's been great for me to do that. So I know I'll get back into it. And then, like you said, I have all these projects, that all of a sudden came about, but not almost because I wanted them so badly. They came back organically. I mean, they're just around the corner. So I go to the offices and we talk about stuff. Zendaya just signed with On now. So that's been so cool.
By the way, that story is amazing on so many different levels. Zendaya is easily, she's just in the stratosphere of her career. Everything she touches turns to gold. Yeah. I also love the connection to the fact that she just put out the movie Challenges. And
it's all about tennis as well.
It's all about tennis. Yeah. But what's interesting, and this is what I love about the serendipity of how some things tie together. The movie Challenges seems like it's about tennis, but I argue it's not. It just happens in the world of tennis. And it's really a movie about relationships.
Yeah.
It's really a movie about expectations. It's a movie about pressure. It's a movie about self-identity. You know what I mean? And in that movie, in the movie, Zendaya's character, and spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, just skip this part. Zendaya's character is probably going to be the best tennis player in the world. She suffers an injury. She can't play. Her role changes dynamically. And it's all about this. And there were some people who said, oh man, this sort of reminds me of Roger and Mirka's story. And
so
then the
director
came out and said, no, that's exactly what inspired me. He said he was fascinated
by Mirka suffering through, was it the 2019 Wimbledon finals?
Wimbledon was on.
Yeah.
You're on the court. And the camera keeps cutting to Mirka.
Yeah, but that's what they do at Wimbledon, right? They always go from player to team, or player to wife, or player to coach.
Right.
And it's such a tennis thing, because in American football or baseball or football, they don't always cut to the team, right? But in tennis, it's such a thing.
Don't go anywhere, because we got more What Now after this. It feels like you've brought your precision, your thoughtfulness, and your joy out of tennis into another idea, and that is a sports brand. I know you're really thoughtful about why and why you do or don't do things. So I've been lucky enough to be in Switzerland with you and to like feel you moving through space. Like when we're in the train station, for instance, do you apply that to yourself as well as Roger? Like, do you feel that you have, maybe an obligation is the wrong word, but I can't think of a better one right now, to really represent Swiss identity, to really represent Switzerland, to really represent the Swiss people?
I think we're proud of our Swiss made, and like we do it with precision and well. And when there's like a Swiss cross on something, it's supposed to be done to a level that not many other countries can bring it to. I don't know, maybe Italy when it comes to really beautiful clothes, or Japan when that the craftsmanship is really special. And I think the Swiss angle has that as well. And we're very proud of it. Like with our, watches and cheese and chocolate and mountains and whatever it is, we're very proud of it all, as you saw, when we did the Swiss tourism out together. So,
but on an individual level, though, it hasn't always been that way. Like,
no, in the early
Swiss. Okay, this is the way I've perceived it. Having family members in Switzerland and spending a little time out there, it's like Swiss culture is also a little bit of like, hey, don't stick out too much.
Oh, for sure.
We're all equal. We're all doing this thing. We're all as important as the other. And so in many ways, like the cult of personality.
So the beginning, it was funny. Like I didn't feel like, sure, I'm proud to represent Switzerland when it was a team sport and it's against Switzerland, like say in the Davis Cup or Olympics and so forth. But, when I was traveling on my own, and I feel like, sure, I represent Switzerland. There's a Swiss flag, but never to the extent towards sort of the second half of my career when I really started feeling the Swiss people were really proud of me. They were very excited for me. And every year that went by and the more famous I became, the more important was for me to represent Switzerland the right way, because I know that they care. Yeah, we're subdued about it. We're not like, let's not make a big fuss about it, but we really are. And honestly, they, it's hard to get them out of their shells, shells and come like say like, okay, Roger's the greatest, whatever. He's good. We like him. And when maybe I'm not around, you ask Swiss guy, like, oh, Federer, he's amazing. We're so proud of him. So that's been amazing to hear.
What's funny is most of them don't even say Federer. They always say Roger. That's what I love the most. Genuinely, everywhere I go, they come up to me and they're like, Trevor. Then they're like, Grüezi. Then they're like, we saw your thing with Roger. They're like, with Roger. Yeah, it was we love Roger. How is it? But they all say Roger, which I think is a testament to how they see you.
No, and I've always tried to keep that connection going. I've done, countless hours of Swiss media as well, because it would have been easy just to say, let's just keep it to English, generic, save time and stuff. But I always knew I was going to live in Switzerland. I love the country. They've been the best, so it's been great.
Right,
couldn't be happier.
So let's talk a little bit about, you enjoying this relative new freedom. Just being able to try everything, knowing there's no match coming up, knowing there's no, even for your body, you just like wake up the way you wake up and do your thing. You posted a video on Instagram hitting a golf ball.
Ooh.
Right?
Have you played golf or not?
Say again?
Have you played golf much or not?
I wouldn't say I've played golf. I'll say I've hit a golf ball.
Okay.
I don't think what I did wasn't playing. I'm terrible. I also don't get it, to be honest with you. I really don't. I loved learning tennis, and I still play when I get a chance.
Good.
I enjoy it. Yeah, golf, I never, but you posted the video.
Yeah.
And is this what?
So
first of all, how new are you at it really? Because it was flawless.
No, I know it looked good, but
it looked very good.
But those balls, they have a way to slide over.
That's funny.
Oh my God! But no, I've played throughout my my life on the road.
Okay.
But never to the extent like where Rafa or Henman and other players. They played all the time, every chance they got, they would go out
in the game.
And me, I was especially the last, say, 8 years or so, I've maybe played like 3-4 times, Wow. And my parents both liked it. They liked to go out. So then I was like, I'll never go out there and start golf if my wife's not into it or my kids are not into it. Yeah, it takes me too much time out there, and I have other things to do. I'm too busy. And anyway, my knee was crazy. So I was like, I don't need to agitate the knee. So now in December, I was in Dubai. I was like, why don't I take a few lessons and see how it is, for the first time, maybe a lesson. I don't know. I thought that my technique was okay, but obviously I'm still at the moment very erratic with my shots. And I'll never forget the second lesson I take. My golf coach, he tells me, or golf pro, I don't know, golf coach, he tells me, what are you thinking about when you stand over the ball like that? I'm like, I hope it goes straight, you know. I mean, what, you think of something else or what? I don't know what else I could think of. He goes like, that is the holy grail, my friend, because, I mean, you have so many things to think about normally about your positioning, your backswing, impact, and follow through. So I'm like, okay, fine,
so
whatever.
you were already on the right path, just thinking, I hope it goes straight.
4 lessons later, I stand over the ball and I tell him, hey, you know what? I know what you're saying. Here I am lining up and everything's like ultra tense. It's not relaxed anymore. I'm not even thinking about where I'm hitting the ball. I just want the backswing to be okay and the impact and the follow through. And it's wild how golf is so technical.
Yeah.
And, you know, you stand there and you can take
so much
effortless. Time. So effortless, but it's actually not, right? And tennis, you're kind of always on the move. It's like we would be tinkering with our serve for life. I mean, of course you get nuts, you know, just, you know, doing the same position again. You're like, no, let's just adjust it ever so slightly. And every adjustment has an impact. So anyway, why I like golf is going out. And then especially everybody started to play as well, the kids, Mirka and everything. And I just really thought also for philanthropy, you know, for maybe the foundation stuff. I know that maybe through golf, I could be out there because maybe tennis, I can't always be out there, but it gives me a chance to maybe have some fun golf events I could join, or I could do it with my foundation, and I could play for the rest of my life. So why not take some lessons? And that's what I'm going through right now.
Let's talk a little bit about another aspect of the film that for me really, I think is one of the main pillars of who Roger Federer is. You can't watch this documentary and not think about how important relationships are. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're watching the final 12 days of your career, one of the scenes that is, I mean, everyone's probably going to cry when they watch it, and it's a good cry, is watching you and the team, and it's like Team Europe, and you're saying goodbye, and it's this whole thing, and everyone has cried. You know, you've taken center stage and you've spoken, and Rafa's crying, and you're walking into the change rooms together, and then Rafa goes off, and he goes off into another room because he's still crying, and he's so emotional. This maybe is something that I think is not just a beautiful testament to you, but it's an interesting look at relationships and how we think of them. There is no greater rival in your career than Rafael Nadal. Yeah. You know, this is the person who was always between you and another Grand Slam, and obviously Novak came in time, but you and Rafa, we think of as being synonymously, you know, head to head all the time. You wouldn't think in most stories that the person who would cry more than you would be your number one quote unquote rival. And yet it seems like it wasn't necessarily a rivalry. It seems like it was a competition, and there's a love as brothers. Tell me a little bit about that relationship and how you were still able to compete at the highest level against somebody like that, beat them, have them beat you, but then still have that love between you.
So I think what I like about the story of, now take tennis as a whole. Sure, we can take Rafa, but we can also take Novak or Murray or Wawrinka, whoever we want to take. But let's say take Rafa. To come through a career of 25 years or 15, whatever, it's long, a lot of matches, a lot of tough battles, like you said. You know, you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you don't like him, then you like him again. Then you don't like his team, or you don't like his coach, and then they have a problem with you, and you said something, he said something, and you know there's always this agitation, but actually there's mutual respect and so forth. And then to come out at the end of it all and actually be like, high five, that was cool. That stuff was cool. And you know what? We can't wait to maybe hang out more in the future, or hopefully we'll see each other again down the road and be on a rocking chair one day, and we'll look back and go like, that was fun, and thank you. And I said that as well in the commencement speech yesterday. I thanked all the players for making me better and showing me my flaws, you know, for making me hopefully a better, not just a tennis player, but also a better person. That's beautiful. So I think this last 12 days, you know, that we're going to see coming out now is a beautiful story as a whole, I think, for that message, because I think a lot of time we tell the other, you know, as a coach or a father or whoever it is, you got to be tough, and you got to take him down, and you got to beat him up, and you know you got to be wanting to win, and you got to show everybody, and you can't be the nicest. And so I'm like, I get it, but it's just tennis, or it's just sports, and come on, let's be friendly and nice to one another, and we can do it in a good way, in an elegant way, I always call it, So I think that moment shows that in a perfect way. Like you said, the segue from the court, we come into the locker room, and I just felt it was very important for me to also tell all the other players that they ended up being these co-stars in this movie, which was never supposed to be one.
Right.
And I just wanted to let them know, because I didn't know at the time this was going to be a movie. I just wanted to let them know, thank you for being here. Thank you for, I hope you know how much this means to me, that you guys were all here and you came to my last game, even though at the time when they signed up, they didn't know it was going to be my last game. Maybe in hindsight, we would have to ask them how happy they were to be there. And I think Rafa, maybe in particular, he was not ready for it to go down so emotional and so crazy. He just wanted to, like, I'll play doubles with you and be great, and we'll be there. And it'll be, a tad emotional at the end, but I think nobody knew that it was going to be this intense, because I think there was this beauty. We had this moment where we could just take it all in, and our careers were flashing in front of our eyes, especially for them who are still going. They're like, we are so fortunate, I think all of us, that we are living as a tennis player. We're so fortunate to still be going. Hopefully, Novak can go on and crush every record. I mean, hopefully Murray can play as long as his hip allows him to, and he still has the hunger. Rafa knew that he was in a tough spot as well, and he hopes that he can still win as much as possible.
Yeah.
And here I am, one of their big rivals, going out and seeing it live in slow motion almost go out. I mean, it was tough. And that's why I think the movie is going to be really beautiful of showing that. And I hope, actually, in many ways, that many future great athletes, or not so great, it doesn't matter, will maybe give us that glimpse into the retirement moment. Because we don't know how maybe a Formula One driver, a rugby player, a golfer, how they retire, what they have to go through on that final stretch when you head into retirement at a young age, I mean, gymnasts, they do it at 20-something years old, I now had the chance to play till 40, 41, so I think everybody does it in their way. So I think, like you said, there's these beautiful moments, like in the locker room, super raw, super unexpected as well in many ways. But it's that beautiful sign of camaraderie. I know we're a team at the Laver Cup, but still, for me to be able to tell them, and a very strong moment was actually at the press conference, like a couple of days earlier, if you remember, where I talk about, I am so happy, where I grabbed the mic one more time and I just had to say it in front of everybody. Here I am sitting with, Borg and Rafa, Novak, Andy, and Casper and Matteo and Cameron, and everybody was there. And I'm just saying how happy I am that I get to go first, and it's not like Rafa retiring before me or Novak or Andy, but actually I go first, like it was supposed to be, because I am 5-6 years older than them. And
I hear what you mean.
It would have been painful for me to see one of them go first because of injury.
Right.
So I was supposed to be going first.
Yeah.
I had a career without them in the beginning, early years, and they should have one without me too. So I just felt it was important for them to hear that, the press, for them to hear that. And I just thought it was, for me, a very strong emotional moment. You can see it how then when I walk out from the press conference, I'm like, oh, God, this was a brutal press conference. But, we're getting closer to the match. So we're almost done.
So let me ask you this. When you have that kind of support, when you have that camaraderie, like where do you find it now? Because while tennis took a toll on your body, it also gave you something on an emotional level. It gave you something on a mental level. Where do you search for that now? Where do you find it?
So I'm happy that we always kept a really nice group of friends throughout the world, but also in Switzerland. I always have my roots down. I think there I can really thank my wife as well, especially, to always keep in touch with everybody. Yeah. Because I always worry for players, and when players seek me for advice, or, you mentor them sometimes, or they're in a tough spot, I always tell them, remember to keep in touch with your friends, because one day you're maybe going to be injured, or your career is over, you're going to come home, and what are you going to come home to? An apartment, and that's it, a house. But a house with no people, or an apartment with no friends around, it's going to be, it's not so much fun. It's not a home. Yeah. So I feel like that's now where our big focus is as well. And that's why I was talking about, like, taking a bit of a break. Maybe it's not a real break, but you know what I'm saying?
No, it is. I like what you said about holding.
Actually going to weddings, going to birthday parties, going to things I could never do. Yeah. And actually catching up with that, but also maybe giving my friends their time now, because they invested so much time in me. I know they love the trip to Wimbledon and come to London and then come watch a game of me. I know, and I organize a ticket and so forth, but they still took their vacation or they took time out to come see me play. And I now return the favor by trying to see a lot of my friends.
That's
and my
beautiful,
family. And
man.
I feel like I get a lot of energy and got a lot of happiness from that.
Well, Roger, before I let you go, there's the question that I love to ask everybody on the podcast is, what now? And it could apply to everything. It could apply to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm selfishly curious about this. One is the what now for your career. When we first sat down and had like a real conversation like this, was literally my final 12 days of the Daily Show.
That's right.
You know,
was I your second last guest?
Yeah, second to last guest.
Second to last,
actually. Yeah. No, I think you were the last. You might have been the last guest, actually.
Was I? How did that feel for you? The end? Did you also feel emotional? Or were you like, this is great, happy?
So this is the way I think, and I would love to know how you view it.
Yeah.
You know, I think any ending that is good should leave you with a little bit of mourning or regret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any ending that is good, anything that has ended when it should end, should have you just yearning a little bit for more of it. You know? When I was leaving the Daily Show, I wasn't like, good riddance. There was a part of me going, man,
would be good to continue.
It would have, maybe I should, just a little bit more, maybe. But I think that's what it should be.
Yeah.
If you're leaving anything, a relationship, a job, a career in sport, whatever, and you're like, oh, thank God it's gone, then I argue it's too late.
Yes, you've overstayed,
You know, so definitely for me it was, and then just like you know, there was a whole period in between where we couldn't really do much, and there were strikes and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then we won the Emmy for the show. So it was like, we got to come back and celebrate that. And it's like, you know, you going back to Wimbledon, being in the space but not being in the space comes with a different feeling. Yeah. You get to feel new emotions.
Yeah, you're super distant.
Exactly, exactly. And the same way you're talking about with the documentary now is like you get to live that moment again, but not be in it.
Yeah,
which is an interesting way to feel. So I guess like, what now for you as Roger the person? Like, because really the sky is the limit.
Yeah. So what now? I think I'm still in a search mode. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
I've been trying to, like I explained before, protect the schedule a little bit, make sure I'm a dad, you know. Boys are 10, girls are 14. It's a big deal right now. I feel like it's an important time for me to be around and support them and help them. So going through the schedule with Mirka and with the kids, making sure we do all of that stuff as much as we can
right.
I think is a huge priority for me. And then while we do that, of course, try to have fun with other projects that we're working on. You mentioned so many. We're also working on a Celine project, you know, that comes out, a coffee table book in September.
Okay.
Launch going to be in New York, actually. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I think as we move forward, you know, I think I will know more, let's say, in a year's time or so, because I feel like I'm still a little bit in, let's relax, let's enjoy ourselves, but have some cool projects and take that on. So that's going to be definitely, you know, a priority for me as well. So pretty laid back, you know, always see what is the tennis space doing for me. Problem is, I think either you're a coach, mentor, or you are a journalist, or let's say commentator.
Yeah.
And I just don't see myself doing that quite yet, because I just don't have the time, you know, with next to being there for my children. So so really a bit of a transition phase too. And I think it's a good spot to be in.
It's a great spot.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
When you accept it, it's a great spot.
Yeah, exactly. And whereas I feel like if I look back maybe 9 months ago, I wasn't so sure. I just felt like I needed to dive into the next project.
Yeah,
and then like, maybe not. Was I supposed to go there? I feel like everywhere I go right now, I feel like I'm happy to be there.
That's amazing, man. Well,
great.
Roger, congratulations again. You know, and thank you for sharing it with us. I do think it's wonderful for people to see all sides of a career that affected them in such a wonderful way. So this is really great. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Love being on the podcast. Well done. Happy for you too, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before the new season begins, we return to where Trevor's story was first written, South Africa. In the laughter and struggles of childhood, lie the roots of who he became. These are the tales we gather now. Our journey begins where Trevor's family always began, with prayer. In the townships, prayer was more than faith. It was identity, a reminder of where you belong.
This is the awkward part, how you start a conversation.
It's the worst part of every
It's
conversation.
the worst part.
Why don't we start with a prayer? This is actually why our grandmothers started meetings with prayers.
Oh yeah, to cut the awkwardness.
Because it's to cut the awkwardness. Because now you can't just come together and be like, your son has a drug problem and your husband is cheating. If you start with a prayer, then it opens
But
it
it was
up.
also a township power move. Because everyone here will know whose house this is. Because you can't lead a prayer at...
You can't lead a prayer at somebody else's house.
No.
When you pray in a South African household, right? First of all, like I don't know if your grandmother did this. My grandmother used to give her address, and she used to give like where she's from and her name and everything.
No, my grandma never did that.
No, really, my grandmother would do that.
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Bawethu Samazulin, Kamalamungu Francis Noah," and then she'd be like, "Stalala,
Location.
626
Sense
Orlando
what a
East."
location.
Yeah, who you are, where you're from, whatever. And I remember I asked her once, I was like, "Why are you doing this?" And then she was like, "Why do I assume?"
He
She was
knows
like,
where I am.
"Yeah," she said, "Trevor, I must just assume that God is always listening to me." She said, "Yeah, that's not fair." And if you think about it, most South African like prayer in general, I think is very like considerate of God. It's very much like we know that you're doing stuff and we know that like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think because of missionaries, we never, as black people, thought that God is with us. God was brought to us.
Huh.
So we always have to identify ourselves and also separate ourselves from the non-believers.
It's funny, now that you say the missionary thing,
Yeah.
I actually think a lot of that was real. Is that like, because I always think about this. I go like, imagine being a black person anywhere on the continent, right? These people come with religion, right? And then they tell you that the reason things are going bad in your life is because you don't have
Religion.
this God in particular. Because there was religion.
Okay.
There were different religions all over the continent, all over South America, all over these places. They would force the native people, that they would force them to buy goods from them that nobody else wanted to buy at predetermined prices. They would say they would do the work of like donkeys and mules and all of that stuff. But the main thing was they also came in with religion. So everywhere in the world, I can see this vibe where people have come in with religion saying to you, hey, all these bad things that are happening to you are because you don't worship God. And then it must have been weird because the natives are like, you are the bad thing that's happening to us. They're like, yes, exactly.
Right.
If you had prayed,
And you have penicillin.
this wouldn't be happening to you.
But I thought you didn't need penicillin because you can pray. Yay.
And this is
go put on clothes. It's not cancer time yet.
Trevor's mind moved to its own rhythm. Some saw disorder, yet it was a gift that once left him shoeless on the side of the road on his way home.
my record with my mom. The story that she keeps bringing up is one day I came home from school. I had no backpack and I had no shoes.
Come on.
And then my mom said to me, and my cousin always tells a story as well, because he says that day I got one of the all-time beatings.
All-time.
And he says he remembers like watching me going, but this could have been avoided. He was also a child, but he was like, he says he watched me and he thought to himself, but he could have avoided this. And what had happened was I came home and apparently my mom was like, where's all your stuff? And I said to her, the bag got heavy.
Put it down.
So I put it down. I literally left it on the side of the road.
Very
I put it down. To me, logical.
Yeah.
And then she said, and what happened to the shoes? And I said, the shoes were new and I didn't want to finish them. So I left them somewhere close to school so that I don't have to wear them out on the way home. Because you know, like your shoes would get worn out on the sides, right? Like we couldn't afford new shoes the same way other kids could. So I noticed kids always had like a flat heel on their shoe.
Look at how observant you are, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then my shoes had the slant
Yeah.
that looked terrible. So I was like, okay, if I can preserve my shoes, then I won't get laughed at as much. So I'll leave the shoes near school and then walk home barefoot. And we went back and everything was where it was, which means my plan worked technically.
Technically.
Yeah, but she couldn't understand. And my brain, I remember thinking this made sense. And
To me.
to me, it makes complete sense.
Yes.
As children, Trevor and his friends turned the streets into playgrounds, claiming space where none was given. He remembers how community can be built from nothing but bricks and courage.
I think the truth is that we think we don't have the third spaces, but it's just because we've made every space a private space. Like, I was just thinking this walking around like parts of Brooklyn the other day. I've noticed a dip in how many block parties there are.
Yeah.
Just, that was a simple event where you closed the streets.
Yeah.
You agreed. Neighbor at the end, we all agree. On Saturdays, we are going to close our block. And everyone's going to just open their door and like walk out, and the kids can kick a ball and can hit a ball.
Great for
and I've seen a few parts of New York where they do it now. Like, this is like in Manhattan, by the way, like Chelsea, somewhere there.
Okay.
I remember driving one day and I was irritated because I was in the car, I was trying to get to an airport and the road was closed. But I loved the fact that I saw like someone hitting a baseball, and then people running. The whole street was just closed. And I was like, oh, we've been tricked into thinking the thing that's right outside our door is not a third space.
No, but that's not a third space.
Why
that's
is it
a
not?
home. Third spaces are like actual. I'm talking about parks,
Yes,
libraries.
yes. No.
They have decimated them.
I'm with you. And I'm telling you that when I grew up, they didn't exist.
Okay.
Black kids couldn't go to a library.
Oh yeah, you grew up
There was no park.
Yeah.
There was no during apartheid. None of this exists.
Yes, that's
but
true.
I have the full childhood that you're talking about.
Okay. Right.
Because the third space
I
was
get
the
it.
street.
The street.
Okay,
That's right.
I get what you mean.
Your grandmother
But
told
you travel around the world. Sometimes you don't see girls, but you always see boys playing in the street.
Yes,
Yeah.
the third space is the street.
Yeah, that's right.
So you tell the kids,
we
go
need
out.
to get rid of these SUVs. I would let my son play in the street if Americans didn't have these
Exactly.
huge ass cars.
You know, and
I'm
you
like,
see-
if he runs in front of the car.
Yes, but that's what I mean by
Yeah.
close the streets.
Yeah.
So I would love to live in a society where we go. Like, we used to do this on, I wish I could like take you to the picture in my brain. We as the kids ran the streets as if we were adults. So we would close the street with
You
bricks.
take the responsibility.
Yeah, we would take bricks and we
Yeah.
would put them at the beginning of each road and close each road.
Yeah.
And then when a car would need to turn into the street, because this is like a road,
Right.
you know, it's not a public, I'm not talking about like main roads. So if you're
Yeah.
listening
Right,
to
you had
this,
no permission
I'm
to
not
do
talking
this.
about the
This
highway.
was just an informal thing you
Yes,
did.
I'm not talking about a highway. I'm not talking about a main road. I'm talking about like
In your neighborhood.
yeah, your
on the
neighborhood.
side,
It was a township, but it was still a neighborhood. We'd put bricks there. A car would need to turn. There would be kids stationed at every corner, and you'd shout, "Koloi!" You know, car.
Okay.
And then you'd run there together. You'd move the
the
bricks.
bricks, let 'em
Everyone would
through.
clear the road.
Yeah.
The car would
Yeah.
drive either through where it needs to go to, or it would like stop at the house that it's stopping at. And then we'd put the bricks back on the road, and then we'd continue playing. And because I agree with you, I'm not saying like go play in the street, but I'm saying sometimes we look at problems in life and they seem insurmountable because we're looking at them the wrong way. Okay, no phones and no this and no. And where now are we going to build third space? How much is a third space? Where do you get it? How do we build a park?
Yeah.
Do we get permits? Guys, everyone, if you are lucky enough to have a house, if you're lucky enough to be renting a space, if you literally have the third space right outside your
Yeah,
door.
that's
You
right.
just have to claim it back.
Yeah. That's
You
right.
literally just have to claim it back collectively.
In his home, drugs and drink were shadows never touched. But one day, Trevor's mother offered him a cigarette and a sip, teaching him that even temptation could be faced with honesty.
I think about growing up and my perception of drugs. So I didn't touch weed my whole. So I'll even take it before even like drugs. My mom doesn't drink. My mom doesn't smoke. My dad doesn't drink. My dad doesn't smoke. All right. So I grew up in a home where that wasn't a thing. My grandmother, etc. And my mom said to me when I was 12, 13, maybe even younger, she came to my room and she had cigarettes and she had beer. And she said to me, "Do you want?" And I was like, "Oh, this is a trap. Obviously, this is a trap." And I was almost disappointed, and I was like, "Come on, lady, I'm not gonna fall for a trap like that. You're gonna come into my room and offer me cigarettes." And she was like, "Do you want to try them?" And I was like, "No, because these are bad things, and we should never." And then she said to me, "Listen, honey, you're gonna encounter alcohol, you're gonna encounter cigarettes and things. So if you're gonna use it, I would rather know that you use it, and then you use it at home,
Yeah.
and then I don't worry that now you're out in the world using it hiding it from me and then getting into situations where you can't share that you're using
Harm
it.
reduction.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Which is wild. I mean, my mom is like super religious and super
Yeah.
strict and super
Very progressive.
Yeah. And so then she didn't even know how to like light a cigarette. So we had to go to an uncle of mine. And then he was like, Trevor, what's up? And she said he wants to try cigarettes. And the guy was like, okay, you want to smoke? And he gave us the cigarettes. And I puffed with him. And I was like, this is trash. This is so... I was like, how is the taste in your mouth? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It tastes like someone's like eating everything disgusting and then farting it into your oral cavity. And then the alcohol beer just tastes like old water that has... dribbled down a sewer into...
I'm a bad Brit. I don't like it.
So I didn't like any of that. And then drugs was almost in the same category for me.
Because of that initial experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, drugs, the way I grew up was, you are a loser.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to end your life. That's how I knew drugs.
So that hasn't changed now? That was just when you grew up?
That's how I knew drugs. That's all I was told. These are the things that will happen when you take drugs. So I didn't touch weed. I smoked weed for the first time when I was 21.
Okay.
That's how anti-drug. I used to judge people, and I would look at them and I would say to them, it is a pity that you've chosen to do this with your life. I used to say that to my cousin.
In South Africa, thinness was not beauty. Not at all. It was struggle. To gain weight was to be blessed. Trevor recalls how the meaning of a body can change, depending on where the story is told.
I think that one of the things that our whole fascination with Ozempic is based on is, and it's interesting, Christiane, I wonder if you have thoughts with little kids, right? Part of beauty is thinness, as it's taught to you from a really early age, like fatness, queerness, darkness, all of these things are like coded as signs of deviance. I feel like you learn as a really young child in Disney movies, in anything, like beauty is really coded as morality, and there's this Protestant work ethic thing, right? It's something that you should achieve through hard and punitive work and discipline, right?
Yeah.
And when people use Ozempic, it's like, you cheated. You skipped the hard work part, Yeah. And so you got the thing we demanded of you, but now we find this a vaguely immoral thinness.
Like you worked hard to achieve the right thing. Okay, I hear what you're saying. It's funny because I don't know how it was for you growing up, but so I've had an interesting journey with weight and how I perceive it and fatness, etc. Because I grew up in South Africa. Genuinely, growing up, this is such a weird thing to try and explain to people. In South Africa, you did not get made as much fun of if you were fat. Like a fat person, you just be like, I mean, I don't even remember if we had that many names, but I remember all the ones for skinny people was Sticks Manzanza. It was that was my favorite ones. Sticks Manzanza, Skinny Manili. It was like there were all these names where it was just like you're a twig, you're thin, and it was a sign there of a lack of having.
Yeah.
If you got married and you didn't gain weight, people would say that your marriage is not going well. Literally, they'd be like, is your wife not treating you well? Ay, man, no, man, look at you. If I would come home from the States, and like many times I'd come back from America and I gain weight. And so whenever I go home, people will be like, you're looking good, man. You're looking good. America's treating you well. You're looking, Trevor, no, man, you're looking good. Look at your cheeks. You're looking good. And then, and so where I grew up, fatness was considered like sort of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then being skinny was like, your life is not going well and you're not making the right choices.
For sure.
So it's interesting how it flips, and I'm sure it's time as well.
As a child, Trevor learned that even authority could be questioned. Around the dinner table, disagreement birthed new ways of seeing. He explores how questioning can spark creativity.
There's some classic research looking at families, looking at what does it take to raise a creative child. And it turns out that creative children come from families, more often than not, that had regular arguments and disagreements.
Really?
Yeah. So if you want to raise a creative kid, you can at least increase the probability. I'm not sure if it's causal, but by arguing with your spouse a little bit more.
What do you think that is? I have an idea, but I'd love to know what you think that is.
Well, I want to hear your hunch before I tell you what I think, because I've been thinking about this for a long time.
So here's what I think it is. I think the reason children who grow up in houses that are a little more argumentative might be a little more creative is because they're existing in an environment where there isn't one way to think. And so what happens is they're both stumbling on what I like to call third thoughts, right? I had this idea when I was working on The Daily Show with my team. And I'd say, I think everyone has a thought, right? And then you can have a second thought even by yourself. But I think there's this elusive third thought that can only come from two different thoughts clashing together and forming a third thought that isn't from one specific place.
Yep.
And so I think if you are watching people who don't agree as a child, people who you generally love or you care for, etc., you are listening to a person and you are agreeing with them maybe, or just seeing their point of view. You're looking at another person, agreeing with them and seeing their point of view. And then maybe you are holding both, including a third, which might be yours, which is another opinion of it. And that might force your brain to think of more things than just the things that exist, which I think is what creativity fundamentally is.
I love this. Okay, so your theory is cognitive complexity comes from seeing people argue.
Okay.
That you don't
I need to remember all the... You make some of my ideas sound way smarter and fancier than they are, which I like. Cognitive complexity. Write that down. All right.
I just give you terms for things you already know.
Okay, cool.
I also think you learn to be a nonconformist through that same process.
Oh, interesting.
That instead of just defaulting or deferring to whatever an authority figure tells you, you realize, well, there are two different authorities in the room and they don't agree. And I think that can both lead to cognitive complexity, but it can also lead to more courage when it comes to challenging the status quo. Because there's not a right answer coming from above.
There is not one coming from above.
Yep.
You know, it's funny you say this. My mom is very religious, extremely, extremely religious, but I also think she is one of the most progressive thinkers I've ever come across in my lifetime. And one thing I always noticed as a child was how sometimes she would disagree with the sermon that the pastor gave when we'd leave church. And I'd be like, and I'm just a kid. I'm just sitting in the passenger seat listening. And she goes, I didn't agree with that. I hear where the pastor was coming from, but I think that story of Joseph is not about, and then she'd go into her thing and then I'd be like, but he's the pastor. And she's like, yeah, he's a guy who reads the Bible.
He's not God.
Yeah, but he's not God. He's like, we also have the Bible. And it was an interesting way for me to view even religion, is going like, don't assume that the person who stands on the pulpit has like a monopoly on knowledge.
Yeah.
You too have the book that you can read. And so now that makes me wonder now, I'm like, was that part of me, okay, I like this.
I like it too. I mean, you can see both of those effects playing out.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
You're not just going to assume that the pastor's answer is gospel.
Right.
And then you're also not going to be afraid to question what somebody in power says.
Trevor was part of the first generation to sit in classrooms across color lines. A fragile experiment, very fragile, if I'm to be honest with you, shaped by apartheid's shadow. He recalls what it meant to grow up in that moment of change.
You know, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, Dale, and we were talking about how at our school, they had a program where, because we were the first generation that was like, literally, you and I were the first generation. How old are you, Dan?
31.
31, yeah. So we were the first generation of kids that went to school with kids of a different race.
Yeah.
Literally, I sometimes think about how crazy that was when I go like, literally, the first year in my school, that there were black kids, Indian kids, colored kids, with white kids. That was the first time that had ever happened.
You guys were round one. You were the first child.
We were literally...
All an experiment.
Our
could have
teachers...
gone so wrong.
Our teachers had never seen a black child in front of them in a classroom before.
Our parents had to wear their Sunday best for the first drop-off.
Drop-off? Our parents didn't even know what a drop-off was.
I mean, drop-off life.
No, but just think about that as a concept. I remember being shocked that when I went to school... kids were dropped off by their parents in a vehicle that they owned. Like one child got out of one car. Meanwhile, when the black kids got there, it looked like a circus trick where like one car and they'd open a door and then like...
So many.
You're 15. And that's how we just traveled around. The back of every bakkie, the back of every van was all of us. You know what I mean? But that exposure, like our school had this program where they went, we want every kid to go and stay at another kid's house who they're friends with. They weren't even like, they don't like a stranger.
Yeah,
but they said, hey, you guys are friends.
But it was a deliberate program.
Yo,
Yeah.
it was amazing to see, talking about like exposure therapy. It was amazing to see how the black kids weren't particularly surprised by what they experienced because many of them had moms who were working for white people. So they had seen a glimpse of a white
That
life.
is sense of it, yeah, for sure.
Let me tell you something. Every single white kid who went to go and live with a black family for a weekend, every single one of them went home and said the same thing. They said, Mom and Dad, do you know how black people live? And not in like a righteous way, just as like a child.
Like a curious way.
Like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. They went, yo, do you know how they live? Do you know how they come to school every day? Do you know that they have to take 3 buses to get
With
here?
other people, with strangers.
Do you know that they don't have hot water in the morning at their house? You have to make a fire and then heat it up, and then they
Or the
pull
coal
that
stove.
out, and then you have to do it again for each person, and they have to. You know they don't have their own bathrooms. You know that their toilets outside. I go to school with this kid. I see myself as his direct like competition in that way.
Yeah.
But I'm going, how is he doing math when he woke up like that?
In the spinning of a simple roundabout, young Trevor found joy in bringing people together. He uncovers how that childhood game revealed the purpose guiding his life. Oh yeah.
Okay. Tell me an early, specific happy childhood memory, something I can relive with you.
An early, specific
happy childhood memory.
Childhood memory.
Yeah.
Damn, this is an interesting one. Let me think. Because there's many. How old? Give me an age and I'll tell you.
I don't care.
No, but when does childhood end?
42.
Okay. No, I'm being serious though.
I want when you're a child, like under in school, like an early childhood memory.
One of my happiest childhood memories is me.
The only one who's ever asked me, "What do you mean by childhood?"
Yes, because I think your memories at different ages are very
definitely an early specific childhood memory.
Yeah. So okay, when I think of young, one of my favorite memories was playing on the roundabout at a park near my house.
This is something a specific time, not just a thing you did.
No. This is was a
time.
specific one.
Okay, yeah, go on.
And we were all seeing how we were all teaming up. I got a bunch of people together to see how fast we could make this thing spin. But like it was a monumental effort. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone had to be at the right place, swinging the thing at the right time to get it. Our goal was to make it fly. That was the dream. We thought if we spin it hard enough, it's going to take off. Right. And this was, but that was one of my. When I think back, I go like, wow, what a day! What a day!
And of all the amazing things you had happen in this magical childhood that you've talked about, what specifically was it about this one thing that stands out so much that you want to talk about it now?
It's collaboration. I chose the people I was doing it with. We didn't pick the random kids who we knew had no coordination because the thing's going to smack you in the hands, right? So we got the strongest, fastest, smartest, most affable. We put the people together and we were like, this works. So it wasn't like if you were the small kid, then your job might have been to be more on the inside. If you were the big kid, your job was to push. But we put people together and it matched in many ways, right? And the most important thing, funny enough, Simon Sinek, the most important thing was that we were having fun. And I mean this genuinely. We were we had a purpose, but man, we were having fun.
So so now what I'm doing is I'm looking for the connection between those things and saying, okay, that's the common factor, right? Which is where you find great joy is when you can bring the right people together to do something that matters and have a ton of fun doing it.
Yes.
Okay? And that's sort of your purpose in life, which is to bring people together to do something bigger than themselves and have a good time doing it.
Right.
And if everything you do in your life, you can is that
merry-go-round.
That
the merry-go. We also call it merry-go-round.
Yeah. And everything in your life was like that roundabout. You that is what a game on is.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity for you is to remind yourself of that, right? So whether you get a Lego merry-go-round or a picture of a merry-go-round or just that merry-go-round.
Oh, I like this. I like sentimental things.
Right?
The
merry-go-round it's your talisman. It's the thing that reminds you of why you get out of bed today. All you want to do in life is work tirelessly to create the merry-go-round, right? And the thing is because you have vision. We're going to make this thing fly.
Yeah.
Okay? So people go, huh? And you go, you, and you.
Yeah.
Okay? And now they're all coming in and you're having a blast. And whether it succeeds or fails, it didn't fly.
It did not fly.
It did not fly.
It did not.
It did not fly. So it actually failed, if we're really honest with ourselves. Yeah. But it didn't matter because it was the joy of the together and the fun, even with the vision, that made it worth it. You never said at any point, and I frickin' nailed it.
No, that's not the point.
Right? The point wasn't the result.
No.
The point was the people
The outcome is a bonus. I always say this.
The outcome is a bonus.
And so this chapter ends. Childhood stories fade, but their lessons remain, carrying us until we meet again.